Greetings. This is a quick guided tour to the English B website. Now, the nature of teaching language is that everything really relates to everything else. Unlike, say, a science subject, there is not and cannot be a neat sequential sequence. So, hence the need for this guided tour. So, let's have a look at what we've got. First of all, looking at the home page. Here you have at the top, you have the latest updates. Then you get the most popular pages of the moment, whatever's popular right now. Then there's the blog that I put up as regularly as I can. And then probably the most popular feature, which is the subscriber comments. And by the way, I aim to answer any question there within about 24 hours. Right, running along the top line here, you'll see the top line that is the main themes and the main sections of the site. The subject guide overview. This is a quick summary of all of the major elements of the guide with links to full treatment elsewhere in the site. Moving on, building a program. I would especially emphasize there the framework documents here, which are fundamental IB documents, which include statements of principle. And for those of you who are still in the process of applying to do the diploma, the authorization section. The next major section is assessment. And this is principally concerned with the three assessment components, which is orals, paper 1 and paper 2. There is of course also a section on the extended essay, but that's aside. Let's just look, for example, at the orals. Here you've got a section or a page on the oral criteria unpacked. That's explaining how the oral criteria are devised. One on advice to students, for example, and then there are marked samples under the HL orals section, for example. And let's just look at one of those. That's the HL sample D. And here we are. Notice that you can use these for marking standards calibration, guided tour analysis, which is studying the process of analysis, or you can do them with the students themselves. Okay, moving on, the themes. The themes, all 5 of the major themes required by the subject guide are there. There are masses of teaching material in all of these. Here, for example, is a list of pages which are concerned with identities. Let's just have a look at one of those, class jokes and linkers, and you'll get the idea. This is all based on a single text. The text is ready for printing out here. Notice the heads down approach there, which means you give out the text and they look at it themselves. Here's the handout. That's what it looks like. And you'll see that we have exercises and so on further down. Then, of course, there is a way of doing it in the heads up way. And here you have the same exercises, but capable of being presented through presentation mode, projected up on the board. Okay, oh, and by the way, yes, this particular page, like several others, has one which is a student access page, where many of the same tasks can be done simply by the students on their own. There's the basic text, and there are the exercises. The language system. The language system has, for example, a section on diagnostic tests. The diagnostic tests are there to help you assess individual strengths and weaknesses. Then there's a section on key language issues, which are all of the major common language issues that we have to teach. And also this introduces the idea these have links to the QBank. Let's look at the QBank. Remember that the QBank is a system by which you yourself can, it's a pool, a database of questions which you can combine and compose to train and exercise specific language elements. You can do those online, or you can do them on online projection, or you could do them, if you wish to do it, by printing them out and giving it out on paper. This page includes, for example, the common flaws list, and here is the list of common flaws. There are pages on all of those, and these common flaws are reflected in the QBank. Finally, under language, there is the issue of the language of instruction. Remember that English is the language of instruction in something like 87% of diploma schools, and so English B teachers are very often asked to help students use language in the subjects that they study elsewhere. Moving on, TOK, language and communication. The section on theory of knowledge, TOK, discusses fundamental theories of language, and there's also a section on communication in media, which is, if you like, the practice of language use. The next section is writing. There are some general remarks on teaching writing there, but I'd particularly emphasize the page Teaching Text Types Expectations. This provides a list of the key text types that are required by the subject guide. It provides the basic conventions here. For example, let's have a look here, and there you get the basic details summarized. But at the same time, there are subordinate pages which deal with all of that in much more detail. With, for example, recent materials and models in the website, and also recent exam tasks provided so that you have questions or tasks to give to your students. Moving on, again, literature. Here is Reading Goodreads, provides a long list of different books that are possible to choose. Let's have a look at Reading Goodreads. Great. And for example, let's look at one of these pages, typically The Boy in the Striped Pajamas, some comments on the novel as a whole, extracts so that you can have a look at it and see what the style of it is, and those extracts themselves have ways of approaching it and ways of teaching it, with exercises, guiding questions and so on. And finally, approaches. This deals with the IB documents, Approaches to Teaching and Learning. There we are, Approaches to Teaching and Learning, and it looks particularly at the various different elements of that IB document, the recommendations of how we should approach teaching and learning. These are under the main headings there, for example, thinking, and we could discuss quickly the way that critical thinking is approached here. The critical thinking has, for example, various ways of practicing critical thinking. For example, this exercise, the exercises are available as printouts for one thing, but they can also be done as projected through presentation mode again. There's the stimulus text. You can then go through a series of questions or discussions to be put to the students, and I've provided some model answers or supporting evidence there. So there we are. I suggest you open up the sitemap, and there it is, and just rummage around. Okay, enjoy.